Brothers. I'm Eric.
I'm Chad.
And we watched Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Oh boy. Now, as you might imagine, there are a number of movies called Journey to the Center of the Earth. This one is from 1993 and is probably most notable for being very clearly a failed TV pilot.
Yeah, what is going on here? Is it like what? Did it air on television?
Yes, it aired on NBC as like a movie of the week.
Oh golly.
And it was
Jeez.
And it was a pilot for a TV series that, that the NBC brass took a look at and they went, we're not. Journey to the Center of the Earth starts, as you might expect, at like a college campus, where a professor played by one F. Murray Abraham is giving a lecture about the world that exists below the surface of the Earth.
And how do you get there?
By, drill car through a volcano. He's got a little paper mache volcano.
An erupting volcano.
Is this a joke?
No, they could descend into a live volcano.
Right, yeah. It's got to be erupting. Why it has to be erupting, I don't know. And then, flash forward from there to he's made it. He's made the big drill car.
Yep.
And F. Murray Abraham is dressed up like a turn of the century aviator for some reason. This movie is set in the modern day. And he has this amazing goggles and scarf combo going on. Says goodbye to his chuckle-headed nephew, then drives that thing into the center of the Earth.
He doesn't drive it. He flies it.
Excuse me.
It's airborne.
Well, it's I don't know if it's fair to call it airborne because it kind of does this. Kind of goes whoop.
It falls. Yeah. And he doesn't come back.
He does not come back, which leads I don't even remember. I want to say his name's like Chris. It's Chris, right? The nephew?
Yeah, so let's talk about Chris. Can we talk about Chris?
Yeah, let's talk about Chris.
Miss Peterson, when's the last time your life was in danger? I mean, besides some virus jumping out of a petri dish at you.
I did not look this up.
Okay.
But from the second I saw him, it was bothering me because I knew I'd seen him somewhere. And this might not be true, but I believe he is the same person that plays the coach of the Mighty Ducks in the third movie when they're at that weird school.
What's the one thing all great teams have in common?
Great coaching.
Don't try to suck up to me, Averman.
You know what? That you're correct. He's the coach of the other Mighty Ducks. I know him. He's at Big Little Lies, where he plays Laura Dern's husband, the rich guy who's divorcing Laura Dern in Big Little Lies.
There you go. Now you know several things he's been
in. And he would have been apparently the star of the TV series Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Yeah, so yes, he does. F. Murray Abraham doesn't come back, and then we do another
Uncle
jump
Jim
forward. Yes, Uncle Jim. Another jump forward, another 10 years. So like in the span of 5 minutes, we've like dropped like 20 years into the future.
10 years, and of course Chris looks no different. Nope.
Same guy.
Unbelievable. Anyway.
And he's approached to do the same thing.
Yeah, a lady who represents a rich guy goes and gets Chris, takes him to meet the rich guy, and they talk to him about how they were super impressed by F's plans, and they've been studying his writings and thing. So they've already constructed their own super giant drill car thing.
Yeah, it looks like a dust buster.
Does look like a dustbuster. And they're gonna drive this thing into the center of the Earth, and they want Chris to be the captain.
Right.
And he says, okay, on the condition that he can assemble the crew. So now we begin meeting the actors who were going to be theoretically our series regulars. And the show, it's at this point that it becomes very clear that this was going to be a real like Star Trek The Next Generation type ripoff show where the drill car, because the drill car is huge and it has a bunch of rooms in it. So it was going to be essentially their spaceship. And then we have there's 6 or 7 people then who are the crew of this stupid thing.
Hey, speaking of that, isn't the guy from Voyager in this?
That's right. That's right. One of the crew is Tuvok from Voyager.
Yeah, that's his name, Tuvok.
That about wraps it up, Turner. I'll take that return ticket now.
You haven't heard everything yet, Mr. Briggs.
I heard enough. Now, I've dived everything from oil to toxic waste. Even did a gig in a nuclear reactor once because some fool dropped his Walkman in it. But I have never heard of anybody diving through solid damn rock.
He's like the security chief who is a real jerk to everybody all of the time. Then there's a like biologist lady who's played by the lady who played the bad guy in Bad Movie Brothers classic The Punisher.
Yes. Cool.
There's another lady who's like the
Laura Croft.
Yeah, she's like the Laura Croft type, such that she always needs to be wearing less clothes than everybody else. She is played by the actress who plays Alata Vagina in Austin Powers.
Interesting.
Then there's just like some other dude.
Yep. Don't know who he is.
There's just some other chucklehead. There's some old dude who does not seem like a good idea to bring on this mission. But he was like, I guess, a friend of F's, and so they're bringing him along. Like, he's the guy who can be like, oh, well, you know, the ancient Sumerians once discovered a thing.
Yeah, but that guy's been in a lot of stuff, right?
I guess I didn't take note of anything particular that he had been in. And then in addition to all of these yahoos, the drill has an artificially intelligent ship's computer.
Oh, goodness.
Named Devin.
Oh, goodness.
Who is a floating head in a bubble.
Forgive me, Devin. We didn't mean to forget you. You're as much a part of this ship or crew as anyone. To Devin.
To Devin.
Captain, I...
Well, don't just hang there, babe. Say something.
The volcano is about to erupt.
Yeah, it's a bowling ball floating around. Terrible. Really bad.
It's really funny. And she is played by George Costanza's supermodel girlfriend in that episode where he convinces people that he used to be his fiance was a supermodel.
Oh boy, oh boy.
And that's our crew. That's our motley crew who nicknamed themselves as if the bubble computer lady weren't funny enough. They nicknamed themselves the Descenders.
So here's to us, and whatever lays before us, or beneath us, or whatever. We are a team, a unit. We are
the Descenders.
the Descenders.
Descenders.
That's cool.
And what do they name the ship?
I don't remember.
The Avenger.
The
Descenders on the Avenger.
I can't believe this wasn't picked up to series.
Oh, I would love to see where it was going to go.
I mean, it's wild where it goes just in this, because at every point in this movie, every turn this movie takes, I did not see coming. Because like when I started it, I thought, oh, well, this is just going to be a dopey TV movie version of Journey to the Center of the Earth. There's plenty. They've made this as a movie a bunch of times. That's fine. It'll be this guy and F. Murray Abraham. And then no, it's this guy and like a crew, and they have a spaceship essentially. Tunnel to the center of the Earth.
But they need an erupting volcano to get down there. But
it's
they never talk about how do they get back?
well, that's the thing. That's maybe in a movie that has a lot of weird stuff going on, and I don't want to spoil the weirdness that's coming on this show. So the Avenger is equipped with a sonic bore, which is a phrase that they say in this movie about 1 billion times, which is like a ray that shoots out of the nose of the Dustbuster, and it can like break apart rocks. And that's how they, I guess, tunnel when they're in the earth. But then, yeah, I don't understand why they need the volcano. I don't understand why they don't just point the thing down and then sonic bore into the crust of the earth and then sonic bore out. But I guess the crust itself is too thick or something. And so you need a volcano to go in, and I think you need a volcano to come out. Because they keep talking
just to have a ship that can fly like that ship can do, that alone is all you need, right?
Right. Like they're definitely misusing this ship. Because once they get it down into the earth, it like legit flies. It's got rockets. It has no wings, so I don't understand how this thing can fly, but it's flying around in there.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe, because it's this giant metal thing with like tank treads, and it's flying around like it's nothing.
Yeah.
And also, apparently, the interior of the Earth's crust is very roomy, so that you can fly this thing around in there.
Well, it's hollow,
Right. Yeah. So there's not a whole lot of tunneling going on in this show, but there's a lot of flying.
Yeah, so they misused the ship clearly because that thing's just flying around. They could have just, sold that ship and not had to worry about going down into the center of the earth.
Well, at one point they call it, I thought this was great, they call it omnifibious. It can go through anything. It's like, yeah, I think that you're wasting your time digging to the center of the earth.
Clearly, we find that out.
Send this thing into space. Or can you imagine if the military got a hold of this thing?
What's in the ocean?
Well, that's the thing is, if anything, it's much more like Sequest than it was like Star Trek, especially in that way that Sequest was a dumb show because you're like, they're in the ocean, who cares?
Yeah, right.
Whatever. Do you remember our dad was big into Sequest?
Yes, clearly I remember this.
He definitely would have been all about this show, right? Like Dad would have been eating this show up. So anyway, the volcano erupts early. So because they've been training, which is the first of like 3 or 4 really long montages that are like narrated by Captain Chris that are super boring.
Like my uncle's Geo Explorer, the Adventure was one of a kind. And while we could guess how the ship might react if things got gnarly, what the crew would do was another story. But whether Margot and I chose well or we just got lucky, I was glad to see they all came through it like the pros they are. And then there was the so-called Book of Knowledge.
That's what I'm talking about. I feel like they shot a good few episodes and just plugged a lot of that stuff in.
See, I just think it's B-roll. I just think that's all B-roll.
Okay. That's a lot of B-roll.
It's a lot of B-roll, and I think they might have been like prepared to reuse that B-roll then, because like this show, like there's effect shots, like when they use that sonic bore that they're ready to reuse. There's a metric ton of stock footage in this movie of like volcanoes. It is wild. In any event, volcanoes erupting early, so they head down there. And then I guess they get stuck down there. Like, because I was constantly confused as to why they didn't just turn that stupid thing around and
they
leave.
Had to explore.
I guess.
Check it out.
And man, there's a lot to explore down there because they're not down there for 10 seconds before we meet a couple of really crappy looking like snake hand puppets.
Yeah. And then some like Cobra Commander type Bane bad guy that's just getting pumped full of something that we don't even know what it is.
Invaders from the overworld with the book. They have a piece of the book.
He's so weird. He reminded me very much of the bad guy from Rollerblade.
Yep.
In
just
that he's like a big scarred guy with unexplained technology who has the same voice, and down to the voice actor. I looked this up. He has the same voice as Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget.
There you go.
I'll get you next time, Gadget.
Very similar.
Right. It's that guy. And yeah, and he becomes immediately aware that the Avenger and its crew of Descenders are in his realm.
He says invaders from the overworld have a piece of the book. We got to get the piece of the book.
Now I'm just going to go ahead and spoil who this guy is. Because we find out at the end that it's F. Murray Abraham.
Is it though?
Yeah.
I thought he had just taken the ring from F. Murray.
No, the ring that F was given by nephew Chris is how we're supposed to understand that it's somehow F. Murray Abraham.
Here! Take this! Now you gotta come home, because I want it back. Forward. Ever forward.
No. See, if the show continued, we would have found out that F. Murray's alive and down there. That guy is somebody else.
I think if the show, and it's super weird, by the way, because I clocked this. It's super weird that at no point is, like, I had thought, and like it just occurred to me all of a sudden watching this, how weird it was that they hadn't mentioned this. I thought that the whole motivation for Chris would be, we're going down there to find F. But that never comes up at all. Like the thought that he might be alive down there is never talked about. Until
right, and if that was F. Murray Abraham, he would have just said, hey, somebody else did what I did. Like, he seems so confused that there's people around him.
That's why it's weird that he's calling it like the overworld and all of that.
Yeah, because it's not F. Murray Abraham.
I think it's F. Murray Abraham because like at one point, like you see him because he gets out of that contraption at the end and like jumps on top of the Avenger like he's like a boogeyman or something. And then we see that ring, and that ring is how we're supposed to know that it's F.
It's supposed to make you think that.
Oh, you think that episode 7 there would be some big twist?
Right.
Okay. I mean, maybe it's super weird. However they handle it, I was completely shocked throughout because like when it's Mr. Scabs jumping on top of the ship, even if it is for the sake of argument supposed to be F. Murray Abraham, that is not F. Murray Abraham. Like they did not get him to put on that garbage.
No, he worked for a day and he was done.
Right, which I was shocked by. I was shocked that they bothered to have him in the beginning of this movie and that there wasn't a scene later on or even like a recording that he had left or something like that.
Well, because they hadn't filmed those episodes yet.
I mean, I guess. But so yeah. So anyway, he sends the hand puppets after our crew. There's a tussle wherein Tuvok starts firing a machine gun inside the ship like a massive idiot.
Right.
And all of this somehow leads to the arrival of an albino Harry and the Hendersons.
Dallas, who speaks English.
I don't know about you, but I had a real hard time understanding the captain's last order.
You know, I couldn't make it out either.
Yeah, I didn't hear a thing.
I heard him. He said, if we're not back within 2 hours, we're supposed to leave without him. Ooh.
Let me tell you something. I did not expect when they got to the center of the earth for there to be life down there. I didn't expect that at all for some reason. Little like I didn't expect that the show this would be essentially about them meeting weird aliens inside of the Earth. That one of them was going to be, and they even say it in the show, essentially a Yeti that they meet.
Yeah. Right.
A giant Yeti with a paint smock.
Yes, who is somehow like a demon to the cavemen that live down in the
Right, because then later we meet our, to use the Voyager analogy, we meet our Kazon of the series. These dumb, I think they're troglodytes or something.
Who climbed down a volcano to get there.
Yeah, like you can do that. Absolutely. Right. But anyways, they meet this Yeti, and he has some whole sob story about how he got exiled by his people or whatever for trying to save a life.
Yes.
Incidentally, this guy is the guy who he played Mr. Hom, the Lwaxana Troy's butler on Star Trek: The Next Generation. He was the giant in Twin Peaks, and probably most famously Lurch in the Addams Family movies.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. That's who that guy is.
And Dallas.
And well, they ask him his name at one point. He screams.
What did they call you at home, big guy?
What is your name? How do others recognize you?
My sounds. We are each given one at birth. Mine is...
And then in what is the most imperialist bit of business in this whole movie, they're just like, we're gonna give you a name.
Right.
The old guy gives him too complicated a name. So then Tuvok, because he's a jerk, is like, no, we're not calling you that.
Everybody, say hello to Daedalus.
Yeah, that really rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? Daedalus. Dallas. Yeah, that's close enough for me.
Oh my gosh. And then Dallas is such a weird, it's wild to think that he would have just been on the show every week. Because they've known him for they've known him for 5 minutes and they invite him to join the crew.
Yeah. And he's all about doing whatever they're doing.
Oh, he's very subservient. It's alarming.
When they geared up to go somewhere and do something, he geared down and got naked. And he said that.
What are you doing?
You gear up, I gear down.
Yeah, whatever.
So he knew the phrase gear up.
It's so weird. Because, look, the rest of the plot of this doesn't really matter a whole hell of a lot. The troglodytes kidnap that other guy, the guy who's not Captain Chris. So our heroes go to try to save him. And that means that they're going to have to send Dallas across on a zip line to spook the natives or whatever. And yeah, he's butt naked. And it's so weird because he's so definitely clothed earlier, which means he has things to hide.
Right.
And no one is concerned that there's a naked Bigfoot hanging out with them.
Exactly.
It's really weird. Do you think in the show he would have been more often naked or clothed?
More often naked.
And would he have started a romance with a member of the crew?
No.
Okay. It's funny too, you mentioned, so he had to get geared down for that. So did the Lara Croft lady, because she's at least wearing part of their jumpsuit uniform, which those uniforms were pretty snappy. But she has to take that off to go rock climbing, and I kept thinking, wouldn't you want to wear more if you're climbing rocks inside the center of the earth?
In the earth? Within the earth? Isn't it hot down there?
You'd think so. You have to go through a volcano to get there. You'd think it was pretty hot.
So let me ask you this. Here's the question of the day.
Okay.
Did you know ahead of time that this was a failed TV pilot? If not, If not, about what point of this viewing experience did you realize, hey, this isn't a movie. This is a TV show.
I did not know that it was a pilot. I was looking around YouTube for something for us to watch. I saw 90s Journeys to the Center of the Earth. This ought to be stupid. It took me, I would say, approximately 5 seconds to figure out that this was a TV pilot.
Yeah.
Like it's real.
Once they established like the crew, I knew. Oh, wait a second.
Oh, sure. I knew. I had it pegged before then, though. I think just because it's so that way. It just feels like that instantly. The opening is very cheap, by the way. It's a lot of B-roll. The computer text they put on the screen for the logo and stuff could not look worse.
Yikes.
I mean, they spent all of their money on the Dallas prosthetics, the CGI for that stupid ship.
Hey, you know what though? Dallas did look good.
He did.
That did
you
look
know
good.
what? He was a good creature. He looked good. The troglodytes and the snake guys looked terrible, and so did Cobra Commander. But Dallas did. He looked great. He looked great.
Yep.
That's fair. Even his weird arm muscles, his wispy
He would have been a
hair.
good toy.
He would have been a good toy. And there would have been toys of all of these idiots.
And
there
the
were
Dustbuster.
There were Sequest toys because they thought kids would want to play with those for some reason. So, sure, absolutely. I want the plush talking Dallas.
Sure.
Squeeze him.
And he screams his name.
He goes, "I'll get naked for you.
I'll gear down.
I just wanted to save someone's life."
He wasn't British.
He was something.
So, okay. Cobra Commander, what is being pumped into his body?
GAC.
And they showed it like over and over again. Like we're supposed to know what it is.
Well, and they kept showing like his eye like swimming around in like a sea of pus.
Yeah.
He was gross. And it was super weird to me that it's not like he was like part of like a society or in like a castle. It just seemed like he was like hooked up to tubes in a cave somewhere.
Right.
He was kind of like
he had magical powers.
He did, and he had like a magical part of the book, which was not a book at all, was some sort of dumb tablet. Now that we're saying all this, you know who he kind of reminds me of? You remember in G.I. Joe the movie when they turned Cobra Commander into that snake guy?
Oh, the snake, yeah.
I was once a man.
And so, but they get into like, they touch on it like somehow the center of the earth is a maze and you can get lost in it, but they don't really get to that point. And like, it appears that Cobra Commander is like the maze guy.
Yeah, he can somehow Cobra Commander can change the path of the tunnels. And so Dallas just lives in those tunnels and they're just used to it. Let me tell you something. Dallas, by the way, very easygoing.
Yes.
Because when they meet him, they're like, "Oh, what the heck?" When he meets them, though, he's not like, "Who are you guys?" He's like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah, why are you here?
Yeah, nobody's ever like, "Who are these weird aliens in these red jumpsuits?" This would have been a weird show.
Would have been.
The more we talk about it, the more I'm a little bit like, I kind of want to see what like episode 12 of this looked like.
Well, let's just see 2. What's up with 2?
It wouldn't have been good.
Oh.
I can tell you that for free. Also, a weird side note. I assume you noticed this too. The copy of this that we watched was recorded off of cable, where it ran on
Yes, it was.
where it ran on the Encore Mystery Channel. Mystery.
Well, there was no mystery.
The only mystery is why somebody thought this was a good idea. Can you imagine you're some dork who tunes in and you're like, I'm gonna watch me a mystery tonight. The hell is this?
Hey, now let's be fair.
Yeah.
The overwhelming majority of films that air on Encore Mystery or whatever the hell are not mysteries.
Like they couldn't be, right? Like they have the rights to like 6 mysteries. So they're like, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. For the most part, it's whatever was on Encore when we were children, which was God knows what.
Encore never had anything good on. Never.
Nope.
It's always bad stuff. I wonder strongly if we watched this movie at the time.
It's possible.
It certainly seems like something our dad would have been all about. Hey guys, we're gonna watch Journey to the Center of the Earth.
I was 6 years old, so there's no chance that I
fair.
can remember that.
I would love to talk to some of the talk to Tuvok and be like, so were you disappointed? Like
he was having a blast.
I'll say that this is what the movie had. Like there were large stretches of this movie that were really boring. Like any of the parts where Captain Chris is doing his captain's log and it's all montages of bullshit. That stuff wasn't any good. But this movie was significantly weirder and wackier than it needed to be.
Right.
So I'll give it that.
It wasn't a movie though.
Wasn't it in its way?
I would have loved to just, I wish I could go back in time to all the people that did watch it. Like expecting, waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait for the next one. That was such a good cliffhanger. Can't wait.
To be fair, when we saw the Super Mario Brothers movie, which we saw in theaters, I'm pretty sure opening weekend, we could not have been more jazzed for the possibility of a Super Mario Brothers 2. We were real excited.
Yeah, there's some weird stuff in that movie for children to see.
It's a weird movie.
Yeah, it's real weird.
Yeah. About as weird as Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Oh.
Where are we going to put it on our list? It's a tough one, I think.
It's so weird that it's intriguing to me.
It is. I agree. Like it's weirdness, and it's also it's not self-serious, which helps. Like it's pretty goofy.
Right.
And that helps it a lot. So I'm looking. Number 20 is Joysticks. I think it's probably better than Joysticks. I think it's probably better than Electric Dreams.
Yeah, because I'd recommend watching this faster than those because of how weird it is.
Right. That's where we get to the next one is Rock and Roll High School Forever.
Oh, okay, here we go.
Right. And then above that is Spooky House. This movie is very much of that kind of I would say it's probably not quite as good as Rock and Roll High School Forever.
That's fine. I think you could drop it right behind that.
All right. Here we go.
I'm hoping we can find plot points for the rest of the season.
Oh,
so
man. Absolutely.
We can get the answer to Uncle Jim and whether or not that was him.
Like, were there more scripts commissioned? Are there like scripts for 5 episodes sitting around?
Right.
Could be. Here's the thing though. You know what we're going to have to do? we're gonna have to start doing Journey to the Center of the Earth fan fiction.
No, well, no.
Yeah,
No,
absolutely. Well, what do you think episode 2 is about?
Well, I think they go somewhere else in there and meet another group of people that they help, and then that's it.
Okay. I think at some point there's snake people,
Here, okay.
right?
This could be every sort of thing.
Like here, episode 2, snake people led by Lucy Lawless, special guest star.
Was that too soon for that?
Well, but that's why you can get her as a guest star.
Okay. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Or I don't know, Dana Delaney. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, folks, that's going to do it for another episode of Bad Movie Brothers. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.